Opposition parties will this afternoon outline their plans for holding President Cyril Ramaphosa accountable over the alleged cover-up of a robbery at his game farm. The 7 opposition parties will jointly brief the media in about an hour's time on a common approach that they've adopted and the measures they will be taking. For more on this, let's cross to SABC political reporter Natasha Phiri. A very good afternoon, Natasha. Of course, the heat is still on Cyril Ramaphosa's back when it comes to this issue.
Definitely, Nampu. The heat is on President Cyril Ramaphosa. And of course, those 7 political parties, namely the Democratic Alliance, the EFF, the IFP, UDM, NFP, ACDP and ATM are pushing for President Cyril Ramaphosa and his executive to actually be held accountable over this Phala Phala saga. You would know that these 7 political parties had several engagements, and of course they will be at 2 o'clock outlining the further measures and steps they will be taking to hold President Ramaphosa accountable, which includes a Section 89, which is the impeachment of the president, a motion of no confidence, and several protests, over this matter. But I'm actually joined by the spokesperson of the EFF, Mr. Sinawo Tambo, and of course he'll just, outline our expectations of today, what we expect. Thank you so much for joining us on SABC News. So now, could we be seeing history repeat itself? I mean, there was a time where various political parties came together under the former President Jacob Zuma's tenure to actually put the heat and pressure on him, over what actually happened in the past. Is the same thing happening again?
Look, I think it's even more robust because Section 89, if you can remember correctly, is established out of the failures of the Parliament of South Africa to hold Jacob Zuma accountable. And the Concord pointedly said that there were no mechanisms within Parliament to ensure that the President is held accountable with the process. So Section 89 is a process that leads to impeachment ultimately. And so it is historic that political parties have gathered and have reached consensus that Ramaphosa must be held accountable for the crimes that happened at Phala Phala farm. He must be held accountable for money laundering, tax evasion, kidnapping, torture, concealment of crime, and the use of state resources to try and track down the foreign currencies which were stolen from him. So it is historic. It might even be more unprecedented than what happened to Jacob Zuma because it is an early stage. It's Ramaphosa's first term, and already political parties are seeing eye to eye in terms of ensuring that he doesn't avoid accountability.
Do you think that, these 7 political parties will actually be successful in their bid?
We're extremely hopeful, and I think COPE has joined the party in our second meeting as well. We're sitting at about 9 political parties now as things stand, which have reached consensus on this. And there's no stumbling block. Other political parties have already initiated measures such as the Section 89, the motion of no confidence is something that we're seeing eye to eye on as well. We know the DA has also proposed an ad hoc committee. So there's consensus on accountability measures, on oversight measures, and of course on consequences as well for Ramaphosa for what happened at Phala Phala farm. So it's unavoidable. And we know that as we did in the past, we'll be able to break the ANC caucus because it's not a stable one. And it is one where people, even within it, have expressed their concerns with what happened in Phala Phala. And he hasn't accounted to his own political party. So we're hopeful that there will be conscience within the ANC ranks which will join this move for transparency, accountability and consequences for corruption.
You talk about the ad hoc committee, and the Speaker has actually denied this, but of course, instead a joint standing committee on intelligence has been set up. Are you happy so far with the work of this committee, especially pertaining to the fact that, the Deputy Minister of Intelligence, Zizi Kodwa, was actually probed by this committee?
Look, I think it's not sufficient, and it will be outlined in the press conference by the various political parties why the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence is not a sufficient measure for transparency and accountability. I think the political parties will touch on that. So we're not pleased at this stage. We're not pleased with the Speaker's attempts to suppress accountability, but the political parties will give a much more pointed direction in the press briefing, which will be happening at 2.
You also talk about the motion of no confidence. Will you be pushing for a secret ballot?
We'll hear it too. Let's wait for the developments. Let's not give too much away. We'll hear what the political parties have agreed on at 2 o'clock, and it will be extremely elaborate, and that will help us understand what we're doing going forward.
Another hot potato, the EFF has called for the removal of Finance Minister Enoch Godongwane following those, allegations of sexual harassment.
Yeah, he's a pervert. We can't have a Minister of Finance who, when he gets a massage, expects a happy ending. That is foreign culture, even in South Africa. I don't know where he's traveled in the world, where there is a norm, but he disrespected an African woman in Kruger National Park. He did things that are unbecoming. And we hope that the victim in question doesn't take the bribe attempts that they're trying to do. And we hope she doesn't disappear, because we know that those who are in Cyril Ramaphosa's faction are able to utilize state resources to suppress accountability. And we hope that this won't happen with Enoch Godongwane, who thought that a profession such as that of a masseuse is one where you can turn someone into a sex worker for your own benefit. So he's a perverted man who doesn't deserve that office.
Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Tambo. Of course, Nompu, that was EFF's national spokesperson, Sinawa Tambo, just also outlining the various plans, the various measures that these 7 political parties, and now he's actually announced that COPE had actually recently joined their bid, just escalating their bid there to hold President Cyril Ramaphosa to account and his executive account over this Phala Phala saga. So I do implore you and our SABC viewers to actually stay tuned to 404, where this press briefing will actually take place at 2 o'clock.